I'm Marcus White, leader of Everyone is God, Britain's most visionary political party. I want to solve every problem in Britain, and I want to see everyone fulfilled. This is a podcast of hard questions. See me cross-examined. Do I have the answers? Do I really have a plan that works? Ask your questions and decide for yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody. You're watching the Everyone is God political podcast. I am joined with the lovely Marcus White and Rosie Morell, and we have a very special guest today, the lovely Hannah Method on YouTube. Hannah, how are you doing on this lovely day?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Fabulous. Marcus, Rosie, how are you guys doing today?
We're good, thank you, yes. How are you, Rosie?
Yeah, I'm good.
Rosie's a bit nervous today, I don't know why.
A bit nervous, nothing wrong with nerves. You know, nerves make you or break you, and let's just hope they make us today. So we've got a very interesting show today, Marcus, talking about morality and law. So let's just kick straight off, Marcus. Your party wants to bring morality and law together, combine it together, and have some sort of standard, I'm assuming standard of life, standard of living for people to abide by. Marcus, what are your thoughts on this, or what's the answer to this?
The key thing is we want to make anything that is immoral, that people would generally consider immoral, like say something like bad manners, we want to make that illegal. So anything that is immoral is illegal, and therefore the system of the law and system of morality is the same thing. There's no situation where something's immoral but it's not illegal. That's what we want to rule out. So it simplifies everything, and then the law becomes a complete guide for what is legal and what is moral and what isn't. And it's just much simpler for everything. For everybody. So, for example, we would want to see rudeness made illegal. We would want to see accountability being placed into law in all parts of law and all parts of life. And we'd want it to be law that everybody should speak the truth at all times. So it's things like that.
Okay. We have spoken a little bit about this already, and we've had a little bit of feedback from social media, and people are like, so they're basically saying, so you guys want to control free speech almost. You guys want to control how people think and feel, and some people are against this. So what would you say to people that are just totally against this, Marcus?
So you see, moral values are really, really important. Things like bad manners and bad moral values lead to, they're the beginning of much greater problems. And it directly encourages discrimination, racism, and violence. And it breaks down trust throughout society. It breaks down trust between people and between the nation and the government. And it just doesn't serve anybody. It just causes endless problems, and we need to put an end to it. And, you know, criminologists and psychologists have identified this connection between bad manners and threats of violence and then going on to commit violence. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if we have high moral values in law, none of this can happen. If we all behave morally, the greater problems in violence and crime can't happen. So, you know, we feel it's extremely important. And just to give you some indication of this and how out of control this is, we want to just share an experience Rosie's had with some messaging she's received that came through social media. Rosie will explain.
So on our last podcast, which was on Thursday last week, we had a gentleman who came through on my YouTube live, and he called himself Vice Roy, and he asked two questions that were very legitimate around politics, and we answered them. And then he approached me again on Instagram asking a more intimate question, but in a polite manner. I directed him to my website. We had some correspondence via email through my professional website. that correspondence then turned extremely nasty, rude, and violent from him. And just to warn you, this is just a small part, an excerpt of what he's written. He wrote a very long, abusive message.
Well, two long abusive messages
to me, and it's highly rude, highly offensive, and very sexual. He says, "I will cut your nipples and insert hot steel rod in your vagina. Then I will insert £150 in your vagina per hour. You got it? You guys are mad, Rosie. I will cut your nipples off and burn your pubic hair, then insert a hot steel rod into your vagina, and then cut your vagina with a blade. I will then insert burning lava into your anus."
So you see, the thing is, this comment is not unusual.
We have actually told the police as well, so it's been reported. So
the thing is, this is not an isolated incident at all. This is not unusual in any way, and it demonstrates how rudeness, when rudeness is tolerated, it then grows into this type of thing that we're receiving here. And then just another short step to violence and acting it out. So, this is the danger of lack of moral values, just one example of it. And this operates across all of society. And like I said, it's not unusual. It's completely widespread, this sort of thing, at all levels. We see it in everyday life, on social media. Politicians get relentless abuse on social media. So do the famous. And we see it in our TV, our tabloids. And it goes right up to the top in Parliament, where politicians in Parliament are continually rude and attacking to each other. And it just has a massive negative impact on society. It's become a destructive and dangerous, normalized behavior in our society. And, this is a phenomenon we need to call out, because societies will normalize bad behavior. Every society does it, and it has its sets of behavior which it says is okay. And I'm going to give another extreme example of this. In Somalia, they have about a 98% rate of female genital mutilation. And in that society, it's considered entirely correct and normal to do that. And, in the West, we can think, we're not like this. We don't have these norms that we think are incorrect, but we do, and rudeness is one of them, and all the other immoral values that we support. So it's a very serious problem that needs to be stopped.
Okay. Hannah, you're with us today, so I'm going to let you, what do you think about this? You've got people being very aggressive online, making threats to poor Rosie. Rosie, I hope you're okay, not too shaken up by that. What do you think in terms of politicians getting involved with people's normal day-to-day activity?
Well, first of all, I absolutely love the concept of it, because like you said, this is everywhere, and I don't think it's spoken enough. And it is spoken about, but no one's doing anything, right? Yeah. And I think for me, one of the things that I'm thinking is, perspective-wise, how are you going to find the guidelines for what is rude? Because sometimes it's based on people's perspective, right? Obviously, what's happened to you, Rosie, I'm so sorry that's happened to you, is blatantly bad. Do you know what I mean? That's on paper. It's there. It's black and white. So, I mean, for me, I'm just wondering about how are you going to clamp down? What's the guidelines? Like, where's the guidelines for the rudeness?
I think it's a really good question. The interesting thing is, the question seems a really good question and one that everybody's going to ask. But when you actually get to an answer, I think it's simple, because I think nearly everybody agrees on moral values. We know if somebody is being rude, even something trivial like calling somebody an idiot. Nobody wants to be called an idiot or stupid or anything else. Nearly everybody agrees on this. And people who want to use these insults, they don't want to be called this themselves. Exactly. And they don't like it when they are called this. They react to it.
Absolutely.
So actually, I think the boundaries that everybody wants, the law that everybody wants, I think is actually very straightforward when you get down to it. We know what is insulting and what isn't. And I think we should just put that into law.
I love that.
I think as well we've got, sorry to interject, we've got a following your heart policy, and it might sound a bit airy fairy or whatever, but actually I think it's one of our most powerful policies, because it's actually connecting people with their truth. So if everyone pauses even for a moment, even before they say something, say sarcastic, which might be not classed as rude, or light-hearted banter that can
be seen as rude. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. And it can, in the workplace and things, banter can be a form of bullying, and it's all of these things that we have tolerated in our society and normalized that
it's become the norm.
Exactly.
And we accept it culturally, and we say it's correct, and it's something that we have to challenge and change.
Yeah, I mean, you won't ever get any argument from me about people making threats, people threatening violence, very basic things. There are some stuff where, part of British culture, I would say, is about banter, having a laugh. There's certainly that. There's definitely a clear line when you're making threats and violence. Like these kind of people, I work in the industries with girls, and that, they get these kind of threats on a day-to-day basis, and it's not right. But these men are able to do this only because social media doesn't regulate itself. It doesn't. There's no accountability for a platform. If everyone has to sign up and be accountable for that platform, and then maybe it takes the job away from the politicians, and puts it firmly in the hands of the social media giants. And it's not hard for them. They could literally just put something into the algorithm where they use their AI to pick up basic threats like the RAP word that should never be able to come up on someone's feed in chat for whatever reason. There's probably no benefit for it. Most people know most people say SA now. I have a lady that I work with very closely, and she was recently threatened, and the RAP word was come in through her live. Everyone saw it, and it's very threatening. But what do you think about the current laws that we've got now, Marcus? Then are they strong enough? How would you tweak it?
We've got two fundamental problems with our law system. The first thing is it's nowhere near authoritative. I mean, it's not even in anybody's mind that the law might pick them up on rudeness and this abuse that happens. So it's nowhere near authoritative. And the second fundamental problem is that legally offensiveness is sanctioned. And I'll explain that a bit later. But Rosie's just going to explain, this authority problem, some of the problems that you'll have if you report this to the police. And this is not a criticism of the police. It's more a criticism of the system.
So, like I said, we did report it to the police, and it is actually a public order offence. So he has broken British law. However, because we don't have things like digital IDs in this country, it's going to be virtually impossible for the police to track him down. And even if they do track him down, because of lack of resources, they said it would be extremely unlikely that he would be formally prosecuted. And this is really sad, because he potentially could be showing signs of going on to RAP someone or do some serious harm. And this is the problem we've got with our criminal justice system. If we had something simple like like every single person in this country has a digital ID, that could really help. Even you don't.
This makes everything immediately
for
accountable, because if anybody then posts anything offensive or threatening online, for example, it can be immediately traced back to an individual. So it makes investigating the crime far easier because you can find the person. Can I just expand on this point about the fundamental legal problem we have with offensive behaviour? So there's a very fundamental confusion about freedom of speech that runs through all our law system. And it's the idea that in order to have challenge and debate in society and free speech, that you need to have the right to be offensive with it. And that to me sounds crazy. But this really shocked me when I did this research. So this type of offensiveness is sanctioned at the highest level. And I'm talking about the Article 10 of the Human Rights Act 1998, which specifically protects the right to be offensive. You can literally go and read this. This is the UN Human Rights Act 1998. These lawyers who have written this Human Rights Act actually believe that you need to be offensive in order to challenge people's ideas and have debate. Now, that's not the end of it. MPs cannot be prosecuted for defamation. It's called parliamentary privilege. In Parliament, they can say whatever they like and they're immune from prosecution. This is in law. It's in Article 9 of the Bill of Rights Act 1689. Parliamentary privilege. So a politician can say whatever they like in Parliament and they are completely and utterly immune from the law legally. And this was also tested in the European Court of Human Rights, and it supports this act. So right at the highest levels, we actually sanction rudeness, offensiveness, and other things as well. And that needs to change.
Yeah. Why do you think there's so much pushback? Why do you think people haven't, government leaders haven't sort of stepped up already to sort of, tackle this issue? But even as little as putting the pressure on the tech giants that own the platforms, it seems like first of all, when you say morality and law, it can seem like you're trying to tell people what to do and, take away people's right to be a bit silly online and stuff. But when you really think about it, a lot of the problems, riots, all these problems, they come from people just being able to sort of say a lot.
They're able to hate. We're giving these.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and in America, it's a lot worse. Like I said, I've watched videos of where black police officers or police officers of color are being racially abused.
Exactly.
Literally, and it's like my freedom of speech, and it's like they wear it with a badge of honor. Like, what's the good?
It's an excuse. The freedom of speech and the controlling is an excuse that people are using because it's the only thing they can find because it's so simple. Don't be rude, don't be nasty, be kind in life.
Freedom of speech is a totally different issue from the right to be rude to people. They're totally different issues, and everybody mixes this up. And as I've just explained, this confusion goes to the highest levels of the law and the UN. They even in the UN, they don't seem to be able to distinguish between rudeness and having a polite debate and challenging people. Anything can be said politely. You can challenge anybody in any way politely. There's never any need for rudeness. But I can't fathom how the highest lawyers on the planet cannot understand this distinction.
It goes back to psychology, like we always say, because people don't like change, and that's because it feels safe, and they don't want to question at the deepest level what is driving that. Why are they so raging and hiding behind, it's freedom of speech? Is because actually there's something deeper within them that they don't like within themselves. And this is at the highest level. These MPs, you've got Angela Rayner calling Boris Johnson scum.
Yeah, this is in politics.
In politics,
standing by it.
And Nigel Farage calling out for everyone to rage, and him not being prosecuted about that because he can stand behind this law in government because he's a politician. And this is how bad it is, that they won't challenge it. No one in Parliament will challenge this, but then they're wondering why there's so much disgrace online and they're not willing to question themselves. And this is what we are doing in our political party.
Yeah. One interesting sort of thing that's just sprung to my mind is the comedians, people that make
exactly
like people that make jokes. People make jokes, and often
They're quite on the edge.
It's dark humor sometimes, and sometimes it is extremely funny. I can't lie. You know, sometimes you hear things, someone's getting a roast, they're talking about this, they're talking about that. Normally, especially in the black culture, black comedians, when they stand up, they have a laugh at everyone. Everyone gets it. The LGBT get it. You know, white people get it. Black people get it. Everyone gets it. And sometimes it is extremely funny. So are you in danger of becoming the fun police, Marcus?
We have to ask ourselves some important questions. And what do we value more? Do we value being kind to people more than having humor at the expense of others? What is our value system? What do we put higher? I believe everybody should be treated with full respect at all times. And if that means that you can't have jokes at the expense of others that are, you know, rude and insulting, then I say we shouldn't be allowed to do that. Because does anybody want to have jokes about them on public television or through social media? Does anybody want to stand up and say, I want people to mock me, you know, abuse me, make derogatory jokes about me? Does anybody want that? No. Well, if people don't want it, then that is how law should reflect that.
And it doesn't have to not exist, because like in the sex industry, BDSM is a thing, but it's practiced within a safe space within two consenting adults. But not everybody is into it, and so they don't do it. But if it's practiced in that safe space, it's totally legal. Everyone feels fine about it. And it's the same, I think, with humour, because me and Marcus can share some humour with each other, but it wouldn't necessarily be appropriate to share that with just anybody, because we don't have that rapport with them, and that's just manners and politeness.
How would you monitor this, though? This is the thing. How would you monitor this with your guidelines? So,
for example, I mean, take the online environment, which is where, you know, there's a huge problem. So you'd have digital ID, and the police then have access to any communications that have taken place on social media, and they know who have made them instantly if there is reports of abuse of some nature. So straight away you can track it to somebody. You've got the evidence there because it's all been typed out on social media, and then it will be prosecuted.
So Mark, let me just give one example quickly on this. A comedian gets on stage, and he starts making homophobic jokes, let's just say. What would be under your law, would this man be punished, and how would you deal with him?
We've debated this before, haven't we?
This is where you get to the sort of difficult area. Where do you draw the line?
We've said, though, I think what we've thought is, we like when you watch a film at the cinema, there's ratings, and it says it's got highly explicit content. So that, what I think at this stage, because it's quite dramatic to all of a sudden it go from everything to zero, that it will be this has got homophobic, so you know what you're signing up for, and it will be a sort of breakdown of, you know, because I've seen this myself on social media where comedians have like picked on people in the audience and basically bullied them, and like, you know, I haven't felt comfortable with it. But if they want to sign up for that as being part of the show, and it's like you could potentially be picked on and humiliated, then I think we have to allow people to have freedom of choice. But it's totally laid out.
Exactly. I think there's some key points here. First of all, if you have a consensual environment, so if people want to go into a theatre and they're told, look, there's going to be this type of humour in this show, then it's all consensual. The people know what they're going in for, and they know what they're going to get. And I haven't got a problem with that. But I do feel that I think in our humour, you've always got the option to do fiction. So you can have humour around fictional characters. If you want to attack people and mock them who are real people, who are famous or politicians or whoever, I don't think this should be legal, because you're literally saying these people are second-rate human beings who can be attacked in the media for the entertainment of others. That is the signal you are sending. And this has profound implications across society. And this might sound like the nanny state, but it has profound implications. And I don't think it should be allowed.
No.
You can do it towards a fictional character, and I think, within, like I say, a consensual environment.
Yeah.
Then people can mock each other if they want to. But I don't think it should be a free for all.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I'll say just before we move on slightly is that I think I fundamentally agree. Morality and law. If we all could, if it was as easy as waving a magic wand, where it was like, look, everyone has to behave themselves on social media across the world. Everyone has to be nice to each other. If you don't have nothing positive to say, don't say nothing at all. If it was that easy, and I could just say, yes, this could start today, 100% I would agree with it. I just feel that it's going to be so hard to police. It's like there's going to be so many grey areas. So I suppose this sort of brings us to the law part of this, Marcus. What would you do to enforce this in law?
Okay, so you would need to completely overhaul your legal system. You'd need to scrap many laws and replace it with simple moral laws. And, things like everybody must be respectful, kind and polite at all times. Everybody is accountable at all times, and you have digital IDs. Everybody must speak the truth at all times. You would just have to, put in simple laws like this that replace these very extensive laws that are totally confused right up to the highest level. And you need a system of much higher authority to back it up.
Yeah. I suppose I think China or Japan, one of them have a digital sort of online system where if you commit crimes, if you do certain violations, they actually take fines away from that person's bank account, I believe, and they take money off them. So that's something that will 100% get people's attention. I just think the best way we could deal with this, and it wouldn't even be very hard, is if you get AI just to filter out the threats of violence at least. The threats of violence, the
hard hitting,
the real stuff.
This can be done.
People, I mean, and it could be done easy. It's AI. They've already got it. If you say a certain type of word on a TikTok live, you'll be banned before you even know it. And even sometimes you say something in a polite context, like it will still ban you. So it can.
Perspective is everything, and behind a computer, everything. You don't know how that's coming across. So,
indeed. So that brings us to the police, Marcus. If we are going to hand this over to the police, they're going to be like Rosie's literally just demonstrated. She's tried to put her case forward of this guy making threats, and the police have basically told her, this is impossible to police this. There's nothing we've got that can deal with this. So, Marcus, I hope you got some answers, buddy.
So, are you asking about how we'd fund all this and actually run this?
Fund it all as well. Yeah, that's the main thing, really. So
the first thing is you would use extensive fines. These type of moral crimes, if you like, you would fine, and the cost of those fines would more than cover the cost of policing it. Bear in mind, you've got digital IDs, and the police can immediately go online and see what comments are made and see if it's broken the law or not. It would be very quick to find the person, investigate it. The evidence is there, they're immediately convicted and they're fined. So the fines would more than cover the cost of policing this. And then you back it by prison. If they don't pay their fines, they go to prison. Now, but this in itself probably might not fund the whole system of moral law. So you need other things as well. So we would increase prison employment to make sure prisoners work and earn a fair wage and they pay their costs of prison. So the costs of prison come down and the taxpayer isn't paying so much for that. And, we will have to invest in this. If you put medium-term investment into this, taxpayers' money into this, in the long term, your crime rates will reduced drastically. And this is proved by authoritative countries around the world, like Singapore, like China, and there's certain Middle Eastern countries that are very authoritative and they have very low rates of crime. So once you've invested in it, your crime rate will come right down, and then your costs of crime will come right down with it. So it's medium-term investment for long-term savings. But finally, and we always bang on about this, prevention is better than cure. And the root of all of this rudeness and immoral behavior, which leads into more serious things like violence and racism, is parenting and education. And we believe you've got to regulate and support parenting so children are brought up completely morally. If they're brought up morally in loving, stable environments, they will not do any of this. It's just that simple. They won't even behave in these ways. And with the right education to back that up, you just won't have people that want to behave in these ways. You need to re-educate Britain, and we've got to change this culture, this acceptance of rudeness. It needs to be something we consign to history. And we, when we talk about it in the future, and we say, we used to be rude in the past, but we realize this doesn't serve us, so we've stopped doing it. That's where we need to get. And then your costs of policing all this really become very minimal, far less than we spend on policing and the legal system now.
And they try this in schools. For example, I used to be a secondary school teacher for 5 years. The head teacher on some of the schools I worked in would be outside the front gates in the morning checking kids' uniforms. Now that subtle cue would send that message that we're starting at the top here. That affects your greater behaviour. So that small thing of how your uniform looks and how you're presented has a subtle subconscious effect. And this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
Schools are constantly trying to manage children's manners and behaviour, but they only have 20%. 80% comes from the home. That's the impact. Schools can't do the whole job. Parents need to get on board.
Yeah.
We need to get on board as a whole society around this. It's very important.
We have to do the job, the hard work of changing our entire cultural perspective on this. And then once we've done that, it becomes easy and you solve the problem at its root.
Okay, and we have a question from, I'm assuming this is Howard 7. The UK needs a Christian revival. Without Christ and the Golden Rule, the UK is finished. And there's certainly a lot to say. I mean, there's a lot in religion, any religion, if it's abided by properly, people can start living proper lives under certain. Most religions have guidelines and stuff on.
Absolutely. I would agree. I mean, if you look at the religions broadly, I think there's huge agreement on moral values. It's only extreme parts of religions and minorities that take it to extremes where it becomes ridiculous. But generally, throughout religion, they all preach the same thing, whether it's Islam or Christianity or Judaism or Hinduism. These values are universal. I think they're universally agreed. Everybody wants to be treated with respect and kindness. It's a universal human value, and it runs through all our religions. And I think there's a lot of good value in all the religions, and I don't have a problem with it at all.
Yeah, and obviously we're finishing up, but we can't go anywhere without sort of identifying why there are so many really bitter individuals that are making these threats. I couldn't be more. I don't know how more I can sort of stress this. There are women receiving these sort of messages that you were talking about, Rosie. Threats of every single day, and these are men. That what's making these men markers? Why is there so many angry?
Why is there so much hate?
It all goes down to upbringing, where particularly men haven't had the love and nurture and respect they want, particularly from their mothers, but also from the fathers. It can create this very deep-seated bitterness and hatred. And then this comes out in adulthood as this hate speech. And this is why you have to go to parenting and education to resolve this problem at its root. Nearly all problems we have in society start with parenting and education, because that's where we create our our culture and the way adults behave. We create it in childhood. They're taught, they're modeled for how to behave in their childhood. So that's where we need to go. And this is the root of this hate speech, you see.
Okay, I'll leave it finally with my guest, the lovely Hannah over here. Hannah, anything you want to say to Marcus and Rosie about their thoughts on, morality and law?
I absolutely love the concept. And I really hope it works out.
Hannah, can I ask you, do you have direct experience of this? What's your experience going through school? And I know you're on social media.
Oh God, it's everywhere. I mean, it's in school with bullying. It's in workplaces, like you say, with banter. It's online with abuse. I mean, I've experienced loads of it, and I've just become unstoppable because that's what I've experienced all the way through my life. But some people aren't as strong as me, and it can really, really affect people.
Exactly.
And that mental health. And I was going to say, this is going to have a massive effect on people's mental health as well, which is a massive problem everywhere, so the knock-on effect of that will be amazing.
So would you consider it a serious problem right through society?
Absolutely. And it's a domino effect to so many different things. Like there's crime, there's mental health, there's abuse, there's normalizing abuse as well. If everyone jumped on board with this, these problems wouldn't exist. So I'm well on board with it.
And I'm really sorry to hear that you've had that throughout your whole life. Like that shouldn't happen in this day and age, should it?
Let's change it because that's the norm,
Exactly.
Indeed. Let's get Marcus into power so he can enforce these laws and change the world. Marcus, we've got a Thursday show. Marcus, have you decided what we're going to go with, or do you want to stick with this?
I think we should do it on the tax system.
On the tax system, taxing the rich. I'm in favour of taxing the rich. They got too much money. They got too much money. Taxing the rich.
The rich are already heavily taxed. People don't understand this.
They got too much money. We need to tax the rich. Okay, guys, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks to lovely Hannah. Make sure you check her out on YouTube. The lovely Rosie Morel on YouTube, and obviously Marcus White. Everyone is God. And where would we be without Brudsy? Eh? Give Brudsy a follow and a subscription. Marcus, you lot have a lovely day, and I appreciate everyone that came in and had their comments in here, guys. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.